Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make these, I call them circle macrame bracelets. Now these are two different kinds. This one I've used rainbow satin cord, and for this one I've used two different colours. It's just to show you the different ways you can make them. This one you don't have to worry about what you're using when, but in this one I purposely alternate the colours, and this is what I'm going to show you today. Because if you can do that, then you can easily do the other one. So if you want to learn how to do that, then stay tuned. Now these are the things that you're going to need. You'll need whatever beads you decide to work with. In this case I'm using some Lapis lazuli gemstones, and they have like an oval or drum shape called different things. This is just an example. You can use this kind of shape, you can use rounds or anything really. So that is completely up to you. And then you need your cord, which I'm using some 1mm satin cord, and this is in two different colours, a silver and a blue one, just to go with the beads. And you can obviously use to make this in just one colour like I mentioned. It's completely up to you. And then a scissor to cut your cord, and then you need some glue to finish it off. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is cut a piece of cord ready. And this will be the cord that's going to be running through the centre. So you're not really going to see this much apart from on the back really. I've chosen to make this blue. And this is, the length of this is really just enough to go around your wrist. And then you want to add a little bit extra, enough for you to make your locking part on the back. So maybe 40-50 centimetres, something like that. And then normally what I do is just I make enough to make sure, because I'm using my macrame board for this. It's a really nice tool if you like doing macrame. Really what I normally do is just make sure that it's long enough to go on the short side of my large macrame board. That is normally in itself actually a really good measurement. So all I do with this cord is just put it into the notches on the top and on the bottom, just for now. And when I've done that, you want to get your other pieces of cord ready. If you're using two different colours like me, you want one length of each colour. If you're using the same colour, just two lengths in total. And the length of this is pretty long. You need them to be about somewhere between 2 to 2.5 meters. Obviously that all depends on how long you want your bracelet to be, what thickness of cord, the size of beads you're using. So I'm going to say about 2 to 2.5 meters, because you'll be making a lot of knots on this. And what I've done is I've cut that, got that ready, and then I folded them over, both of them, so this is about the middle. And then what I do is I get one end, feed that, both my cords together, underneath your holding cord that's already attached to your board. For now you want to be working with these two cords as if they were one. So you now have roughly the middle of these two long cords going underneath your holding cord that's attached to your board. So to start off with, what you want to do is just make a simple square knot. And the only really difficult thing about this is, especially at the beginning, your cords are very long to work with. But that's just the way it is really, because you can't really add in. So that's what you have to do. So all you do is start with making the first half of the square knot. Doesn't matter what side you start on, it's whatever comes natural to you. And then to finish off that one square knot, you do the other half. Start with the opposite side. Like so, and pull them tight. And obviously all you want to make sure, because you're working with two cords as one, is that they're equal when you're doing it. So that's it, and then push it up to the top of your board. And then you can either decide to make a few square knots or start with your beads straight away. I might just make an extra one or two. do the other half. There. And I'll just make one more. This is just to start off the bracelet. Makes it a little bit more sturdy rather than if you start with a bead straight away. But also sometimes it's nice to make sure you don't have beads necessarily right on the back side of your hand, of your wrist. Because say if you, that can like knock on say a desk or whatever you're doing. So I have 3 square knots in here now. So that's ready. Now what I want to do is add on some beads. So I release my cord from the bottom of my board. I then get my beads and just start threading them on. You obviously want to make sure that whatever cord you're using will go through your beads. And say if you're using satin cord, what you can do is just singe the end with a lighter a bit and roll it between your fingers. It'll almost become a bit like a needle and it'll make it a lot easier to thread on your beads instead of basically having a bit of a frayed end. So just put on however many beads you want. You don't have to put the exact amount on because you can just leave some out or add a few more if you find that you haven't added enough. So just thread on however many beads you want and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've now added on the beads that I want to use for now. I can always take some off or add some when I get to a bit further down and if I see it's not enough or something. So what you want to do now is you want to work on one side at a time. So I'm going to start on my left side and grab my 2 cords. One will basically be turned into a holding cord now and the other one will be a working cord. And this is going to alternate throughout as you shift in colours, so I'll show you that later on. So for now I want this side to be my silver colour. So what I do is I grab hold of my blue one. You grab hold of the colour that you don't want this side to be. If you're using one colour, it doesn't matter, you can just use whichever one you want. And then the silver one is going to be my working card. So what I do is I keep hold of the blue one, take the silver one over the blue one, and then I want to grab the end and pull it through the loop. Pull the whole length through. So you have what looks like this. And then you keep your blue one top, your holding cord, and then pull your silver one up. Nice and tight. Not too tight, but just so that your knots are nice and even. And then you do the same thing again. Just keep with the same holding cord, put the silver one over to create a loop here. And then pull your end around and through the loop. Like so. So again you have the same thing. And do it again. And keep pulling them tight so you have nice and even knots. And you just keep going until you have the amount of knots that you need. You only really need to figure out how many knots you need in the first one, because if you're using all the same beads throughout, you can then count how many knots you've used up here, and you'll know every time the exact number of knots that you need. So it's just the first one that you need to figure out. And then from there, you just count them. So you keep going until you think you might have about enough. And then when you reach a certain point, what you can do is bring up your bead. And what you want to do is, this piece that you're creating now, you want it to be able to come all the way around the bead so it can end up right below it. So that's why you need this section to be long enough. And what you'll find as you're going, that it kind of starts to twist. That's just the natural way because of these kinds of knots. Don't worry too much about that, just keep making sure, try and keep your knots even, the same tightness and that. So I know I need a few more knots. Probably about one more, I would say. Maybe just one more. So I want it to hug the bead nicely, but also not be too tight or too loose really. So for now I can always add another one or something if I need to. So what I just want to do now is just count these knots, because it's just a lot easier, because then you'll know exactly how many you need to have on the other side. So I know that I've made 12 knots on this side, so now I want to move over to the other side and basically do exactly the same thing but just reverse. And on this side I want my blue colour to show. You could choose for it to be the silver, that's completely up to you. I'm just showing you how to do it this way. Because I want the blue one to show, the blue one is going to be my working cord and the silver one my holding cord. So what I do is I then take my blue one, put it over my silver to create this loop, and then I pull the end around that cord and through the loop. So it looks like this. And then pull that up tight. Again, not too tight, you want to find the right balance of tightness, because if you pull it too tight, what will happen is your twist as you're making more knots will become even more obvious, and you don't want it to twist too much. You want it to twist because that's part of the effect, but not too much. And you just keep going, make another one, tighten it, put it over and pull it around and through the loop, and pull the whole tail through, and then tighten it. And I know I want 12 knots on here, so you can just count your knots as you're going along instead of having to judge it again. So I've now made 12 knots on each side, so I know I have the same amount. Then what you want to do is have them come together underneath the bead. To do this, all you do is you gather up your two cords again, so they're working like they're one cord, and you want to just make a square knot underneath your bead. So you start with one side, it doesn't matter what side you start on, it's whatever comes natural to you. I recommend, or it probably will come natural anyway, that you do the same that you did before, just to have an evenness to the look. And you finish off one half of the square knot with the other side, and then you pull them tight. You want to do the other half of the square knot, so start from the opposite side, make your loop, feed the other one above, underneath them all, and pull it through the loop. Make sure the first one is nice and tight before you then tighten the other one, like so. So that's your first bead caged in, and you can see it's like a round circle around it, but then with a bit of an effect to it as well. And all you do is, now you know you need to make 12 knots on each side, so you can push up your next bead so it's ready, and then go back to working on one side at a time, and say for this, now I want blue on this side, so it alternates with each one. All you do is now have the silver as your holding cord and the blue as your working cord, and you do exactly the same thing but with the opposite colours. So you now take the blue over the silver and then around the silver, and then pull the end through the loop and hold the silver top and tighten the blue. Push it all the way down, and you keep doing this 12 times on this side. Finish up this side, and then we'll move over to the other side. So I've now made 12 knots on this side again. I move back over to the other side, and this I want the silver, so my blue is my holding cord and I'm working with my silver. So I'm making my knots with this, put it over, around and through the loop. And again, I want to make 12 knots on here. So the amount of knots that you're going to need are probably going to be different. All depends on the thickness of your cord and the size of your beads and the shape of your beads. So just see whatever fits you. And then again, all you do to finish this off is you make another square knot underneath your bead when you reach that. And you just continue until you reach about the length that you want your bracelet to be. And then at the end, I would suggest just finishing off with the same amount of square knots as you did here. And then all you do after that is just finish it off with a locking mechanism of your choice. You can either decide to do what I did, do an adjustable like this, a typical macrame one, or in any other way. I have a few videos showing some different ways how to finish off a bracelet. So just continue doing this. That's all there is to it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.